everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dream Oracle for You. This is episode 51, and I am your host, Sarah. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Alexis, or Lex, you prefer Lex? I
Um,
see
uh,
it's Lex on
sure.
Zoom.
Lex
Sure.
or Alexis is good.
Oh. Sorry about that. It's my pleasure to welcome Alexis and Urania back, not once, not twice, but now for a third time to our episode. And I cannot wait to get into today's conversation. We are going to talk about lessons learned and just dive into the different types of dream experiences that the three of us have had. And I just can't wait to hear what you have to share. And as you see, we also have a fourth guest today, and that is the lovely Wednesday, the kitty
Right?
cat.
It's her butt right now as she turns back to the camera.
That's just how they
Yeah,
say hello, right?
right?
Great. Urania and Alexis, do you guys have any like updates on things that are happening with your guys' podcast or just things in general professionally or whatnot that you just want to share and get out there?
So I don't know. I feel for our podcast and even for my own personal practice or professional practice, I guess you could say, we've just kind of been like going with the steady flow. As we were saying before we hopped on, we're not doing our lives anymore, like the live podcast. We do plan to do lives here and there for, special occasions, or if you want to hop on Instagram live for the podcast, we're going to do that. But for the current time, I guess we are just showing up, doing the thing, having the conversations. And we are in the process of finally developing a website. So stay tuned for that and some merch and all of those things. But yeah, we're just kind of going with the flow and just showing up and having the conversations.
Awesome. I didn't know, Alexis, if you wanted to say anything before I chimed in.
No, that's about where we're at.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, very exciting about your website as well. So when you have that detail, I'll add that to the show notes and everything. And living in the flow, that is like the ultimate way to live. So kudos to you guys. And with the live, I wonder maybe we should do a joint live session.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Because I
Or
know
maybe
that
like a
Dream
Q
Org.
and A or something.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be super. What do you guys think? Let us know. uh, yeah, so Dream Oracle for you, I think we've only had one live session and I wanted to do one this year, but the planning hasn't happened for that yet. So maybe this is the opportunity. Anyway, without any further ado, I have not prepped any questions or anything because I just think it should be an organic conversation that we shall have. So where do we want to start with this broad topic that I sprung on you guys?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just kind of checking in with where we are with our dream space, I guess. And because I know that like it's been kind of like a weird time with me and my dream practice, as like my dreams have been vivid and crazy in a sense. But it's been so hard for me to write them down. Like today was actually the first day in a long time, at least like a month or so, maybe even longer, that I have actually written something down. Um, but my dreams have been so profound, and I think I've been more so sitting with just like the energy and not really trying to like extract the meaning per se. Like I will as soon as I get up, and maybe I'll think about it for a day or so, and then I'll just kind of let it be. And I think a lot of it again is because my dreams have been so vivid, so just kind of strange. And so I just like, yeah, I don't know. I just haven't been writing them down, but I feel also a part of that too is I was visiting family for almost a month. And then right before that, my daughter had graduated from kindergarten. So there was like a lot of activity and stuff around the end of the school year. And so now I'm back at home in my own space. And so now I think that I'm getting back into the flow of at least recording my dreams. So that's kind of where I'm at in my with my dream space.
Very cool. Do you think that the evolution of your like recording the dreams and how you're like reflecting on them and whatnot, do you think that's just like an evolution of where you're at? Because I know for me personally, especially when I first started this podcast, it was like I was always writing down, I was always having like dreams that I felt like there were just lessons after lessons coming through. And now, I mean, of course, I'm a new mom, so there's probably that part where my brain's just not able to fully, you know, work on the lessons and whatnot. But I just find that I'm having more dream experiences and not so much lessons that I'm working on and not feeling the need to record. And I was actually just before the podcast or this episode, I was like quickly looking through my dream journal, and the last time I recorded was like almost I think almost a no, one of the ones I flipped open to was about a year ago,
Mhm.
and October. So October was the last time I actually recorded a dream. So I haven't
Wow.
recorded anything since then.
I mean, it makes sense too, like when, your waking life is really busy or you're like really focused on that, like sometimes it's hard to like slow down enough, or it's like you wake up with, things that you have to do, or you just don't feel that drive, like your focus is like in this external piece. And I think you really like touched on a good point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, it's like due to what I'm experiencing in my waking life. And it's nothing like really like specific. I think it's more so just that I don't know. I feel like that everything's happening so quickly. And I was having a lot of experiences where my dreams were almost predictive, like there were little synchronicities. And so to me, that feels like just like a merging of the unconscious and the conscious mind. So then it was like there wasn't a real drive to, oh, I got to write this down. And I like what you said. It was more about dream experiences versus lessons coming through. And it's like you know the difference. And now I think I'm coming into a place like within my dream space where the lessons are kind of coming through, or I'm like, okay, I want to kind of like go deeper with this because I'm like more curious about certain things, like the way my life is going right now, like at this specific time, like as of like the last couple days. And so that's why I think today I was like, okay, I'm going to write down what I can. And it was literally just words, like things that showed up, people that were there, the location, the emotion. Like I wasn't like writing it down as like, every like as the events unfolded. So yeah, I think it's like you touched on it. It was like more of like experiences versus like lessons coming through.
Yeah. And with regards to writing down just like, you know, kind of the specific details, but not the whole narrative of the dreams. I find sometimes it's really nice to write out the whole narrative of the dream, but for me that's just to making sure that you're recalling everything from the dream and you're not leaving out any details. But I know for myself personally, and I'm sure it's true for you guys, sometimes there's a lot of fluff. There's like a lot of filler, and you really only need those things that kind of stand out to you and that you want to write down. So yeah.
Mhm.
Alexis, how about you? Give you an
Well,
opportunity to speak.
so this past several months has been quite the experience for me on my end. I went through some pretty tragic events, and I would say for about a month or so, I maybe had two dreams. And I understand, rest was necessary for that period, especially through grief and everything that goes hand in hand with that. But since this most recent new moon, I have been having dreams every night, and I have been writing them down. And I kind of like let go of this expectation that I have to get every single detail and I have to spend like 30 minutes doing it, because when I was hung up on doing that, I wasn't journaling at all because I felt like it needed to be a specific way in order for me to put it in my journal. But I decided to start taking notes instead of writing it out like a story in my notebook so that I'm at least getting it down. and it's helping to remember the dreams, but also like keep the momentum up with writing it down without writing it down. Eventually, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to transfer all of my notes into my journal, but I feel comfortable just having the notes available to me to look back on. And it has been quite helpful for me in this period of my life, because what I'm going through in my dream space is a lot of processing, is a lot of moving through grief, is a lot of, facing different shadows. It's facing myself. I've had um, entities in my dream space. I have merged, had weird merging of timelines. I've traveled outside of my dream space, outside of myself, and have there's been a lot that I mean, even comedy, even the way that I feel like my higher self is coming through in a comedic way to kind of bring levity to my life in ways that I need. It's all been very important for the period of my life right now.
Wow. Oh, gosh. I can't wait to get really back into the dream space a little bit deeper in my own self. But um yeah, processing dreams. Those are probably the most impactful, I would say, in terms of just our own soul growth and everything is it's really nice for dreams to be there to give you that space to process and I find sometimes dreams allow you to experience things that you wouldn't necessarily normally experience in the day-to-day life, but it gives you that opportunity, I guess. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree 100% because, like we say, when you're conscious, you have a filter on what you're able to experience for protection, even if it's subconscious. You don't realize the filter's there, but when you're sleeping, when you're dreaming, there's no filter, so everything's kind of pouring through organically and you don't I mean, you do have the option to ignore it if you so choose, like, I could come lucid and choose to change the scenery because it's too much, but I tend to not. That is an option. Like you can filter it if you'd like when you're lucid, but for the most part, there isn't a filter for what's coming to the surface. And I think that's something to really understand and hone in on when it comes to these processing dreams too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
I would I want to give credit to Alexis because it was her idea for that helped me get like kind of out of this rut where I'm like still kind of in that rut as far as like recording my dreams. But yeah, it was her idea, like just sharing that with me. She was just like, just write down like little details, like little points, you don't have to write the whole dream, which like for me, like you were saying, Sarah, where it's like I want to like put in every single detail because like also when you are someone who has really like done a lot of dream work or you've studied and you've talked to other people, it's like sometimes those unexpected details like have some sort of like gem or something there. Um, but it's like at the end of the day, you also have to just trust that you're going to receive whatever you need to receive, like that insight, that wisdom, that guidance in some way or another. You might miss it in the dream space, but you might get it in your waking space somehow, or, vice versa. So it's like, you don't have to, this is what I tell myself, I don't have to write down every dream, every little detail. And so I think just like going to the opposite where I'm just putting these little points instead of like, oh, well, I can write it, but I don't have to write every detail. Basically, it helps release the pressure. And
Hmm.
so then I'm like, well, I'm only writing these points. So it helps me to get back into the practice.
Absolutely. And it's what we tell people, like when we're giving guidance
Yeah.
and interpretation for people, we tell people, we're like, hey, you don't have to worry
I,
about writing like this whole thing. You don't have to get a journal. You can do it in your notes app. Just like mark down how you're feeling or some one significant symbol. And like we say this all the time to the people we work with, but sometimes, when it comes back to us, it's a little harder to
it's hard.
take our own advice. And I'm just glad that like it's kind of cemented in there now because I mean I went quite a while without journaling previously to this like uptick. And it does feel like I do feel a type of way. Like I do feel kind of like I'm losing valuable information. And but I agree 100% with you at the same time that sometimes you just have to experience it and you don't have to actually document it. Sometimes it can just be the experience. And I think balancing out that understanding helps with navigating when you really can't journal.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I totally feel the vibe of, you having a dream and you really wanting to get it down. And, sometimes you wake up at like what, 2 o'clock in the morning. You're like, what if I don't remember this dream when I actually wake up at like whatever time it is, many hours later? So 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like frantically trying to get it all down. And I have a friend that I often will just send a voice note. I'm like, I'm just gonna send this to you. I'm half asleep, but I just need to get this out. And so I don't necessarily record in a journal or anything, but I do have a dialogue and the important bits
Yeah.
will come out. But I think it's great that both of you are emphasizing the point that, you don't have to write everything down. You just need to write, some note points. And I know if I remember correctly with Billiana, sometimes when you have things come through a dream, it's not ready for you in that particular moment. And that's the importance of writing down it in some form because, maybe you're called to look at it a couple months later or whatnot, and then you read, and then now you have grown and shifted in your current experiences. So then that dream is going to talk to you differently then as well.
Yeah, we just talked about that when we did our dream reflection for the new moon in Cancer. We talked about how one of the aspects of Cancer um, in the new moon coming up is nostalgia and how, like, the dream will make its way back to the surface when it's needed.
Hmm.
And how to, like, and during that particular time, because Cancer was emphasizing this nostalgic energy, to just take note. Like if a dream memory comes up, take note. Why might this be coming up? How, like, when did I dream it first and how did it affect me then? And how am I utilizing it or going to utilize it now? Because you don't realize that through time, dreams change and they change their meanings and they change their like what they're meant to do for you, which is just so cool. It's like predictive in a way. Like without it being a predictive dream, it's like it predicted that you were going to need the lesson later.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of predictive dreams, I believe, Urania, you mentioned that earlier. I would have to say that very recently I did semi have a predictive dream in a way. And I was staying at my in-laws. I think I mentioned that to you, because our kitchen was being renovated, so I had no kitchen sink. So raising a little one without a kitchen sink is not fun. So went to spend some time with the in-laws, and so my father-in-law had he was gone away for a few days, and I just happened to, while I was there, to have a dream that he like came home unexpectedly, just kind of nothing was wrong or anything. He just, popped in without really telling us that he was coming home. And literally the next day, he actually did come home unexpected, like unannounced. So it was like, whoa, that was weird. I just dreamt that.
Yeah. Did you like have any like meaning or interpretation of that, or did you just kind of see like, oh, that's it. That's an interesting synchronicity.
Yeah, I haven't really fully reflected on it. I would say it's just me becoming more in tune, I guess, with loved ones and that kind of thing, and being kind of connected on that sort
Mhm.
of level, I would have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
like what my dreams were doing, where it wasn't necessarily like like I wouldn't call it a predictive dream or a prophetic dream. It was just like some, I can't think of any examples right now, but it was just like some little bits of it or something in the dream what happened in waking life, or like it could have been an image of something, or like maybe someone came in the dream and then I talked to them, because I also like during that period, like Alexis was saying, it was during the Cancer season. Mercury was retrograde in Cancer, and I was like in my at my mother's house, but it just happened that this year, because I go every summer. I was catching up with all my old friends, not just one or two. My mom found like belongings from my high school in the basement. So we were going through that and like VHS tapes. And it was like all this nostalgic stuff. And like I was having these dreams, like that kind of reflected some of that, but there were also like little predictive elements, which could be, I mean, it could kind of be like deja vu, but I know like the source of it. Like I'm like, oh, this was just in my dream. So I think for me, it was just kind of like the merging of those two spaces and like kind of like the like, I don't know, timelines or dimensions, like something just coming more in sync.
Yep.
So I didn't really kind of attach any specific meaning to it except for that, where it's like, oh, you're just kind of in alignment with your true self and the divine and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Sometimes I feel like dreams even do that just to remind us what they're capable of. If I'm being totally honest, because I had a predictive dream Saturday. So Friday night into Saturday night, I had a predictive dream and it came true Saturday, but it was the same thing. Like it was just kind of bits and pieces. So in the dream, I was meeting up with a friend at 12 in the afternoon. But beforehand, I decided I was going to go to my aunt and uncle's house. And I went into my aunt and uncle's house and I was sitting in a chair and we were eating like soup. Like I think it was like butternut squash soup. And I had dropped the soup on the ground and it stained the carpet. And there's more to the story, but really that's all I need because that's all that came through in the waking space. But when I had woken up in the morning, I went downstairs, there was a yellow stain on the carpet from my husband dropping soup that I had made the night before on the carpet while I was sleeping. And like I can't hear him when I'm sleeping, especially if he's downstairs. So there's no way I would have known that that happened. I just kind of like I went downstairs and I saw it, and then when he woke up, I was like, "Oh, so you dropped soup on the ground? Like, did did you take dish soap to it or anything?" He's like, "Yeah, I cleaned it with some wet wipes." I'm like, "No, you can't clean it with wet wipes. You have to like actually take dish soap and like scrub it out," which I did. But anyway, just the correlation of like the
So
yellow stain from the butternut squash soup in the dream and the yellow stain from my soup on the carpet coming down the next morning. And then the uncle that I went to the house of in the dream, I passed him driving twice that day.
wow.
So it was just a funny, like, it was just like sometimes I really feel like dreams kind of add these little things to just remind us what they're capable of. And it might not really be predicting anything for a particular reason other than to just get your attention and remind you of its power.
Well, that and to remind you that like our waking life and our sleep life, they're the same, it's all of
Mm-hmm.
our conscious experience. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's super
And I
cool. You
think
must have been totally freaked out by the yellow stain when you saw it.
like
Let
laugh.
me tell you, I have had so many predictive dreams that I came downstairs and I wasn't even like freaked out. I just was like, of course.
Of course. Okay. The dream
Yeah,
was like mentally preparing you for it.
right.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that how the three of us, like, I'm sure this is happening all the time, but the fact that we're talking about it collectively right now and it's happened for us recently, probably a lot more in a condensed time frame. To me, that kind of showcases that I feel like there's something going on in the collective, like, energy field, in the sense of like just how we've been, me and other spiritual people, we've all been talking about how like the changes are happening like on the planet, and it's shifting frequencies and timelines are kind of, merging and doing all of that. So I
Collapsing.
feel like, right. And I feel like this is kind of like a representation, an experience as a result of that too. So it's a little bit of all these different points.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like I know that today's topic can be quite broad where, we're covering basically all experiences. So, all opportunities and experiences are on the table. But the mentioning of, timelines merging and whatnot, I actually had a dream a few months ago, and I'm not sure if I spoke about this in any of our last episodes or not. But I actually had a dream about collapsing timelines. And it was interesting. It was like every individual person had their own like room. And for whatever reason, I was running from room to room to room. It was almost like I was like making sure that everybody was like in their right kind of spot. And I'm really pulling on strings to remember this now because I don't think I wrote this one down. Um, and then I went to a particular room, and there were like several people in this room, and they saw me, and then they're like, oh shit, we gotta go. And so they left. And the last thing I remember in the dream was everything, like all the rooms were just like kind of like folding in on each other. It was really, really interesting and bizarre. I kind of wish I'd written that one down because it was it was a big dream at the time anyway.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely sounds like just like a, not just like, but it reminds me, like it reflects kind of what's happening, energetically as we were just speaking. And then maybe your role in your own community or the spaces that you're in where you're kind of guiding or you're like a point or a beacon for that collapsing field. And then like the oh shit aspect is like, people kind of being caught off guard or just like maybe they don't feel ready or maybe it's like the oh shit is like the aha moment or like the awakening process where you're just like okay, like this is happening, and you just naturally, our instinct when it's something that's like in of that nature, you kind of want to run. You're just like, oh, this is a lot, like, and you don't know how to respond, so it's that like flight or fright or flight or what is it, freeze or flight, um
Yeah.
type energy. Yeah. So it kind of made me
Yeah.
think of that.
Yeah.
I feel like too, if you sat down with that dream in mind and did some, I don't know, like automatic writing, more would probably flow through and come out. If you were interested in writing it at this point, I think that you'd be able to channel it pretty well if you concentrated.
Hmm. That's a great piece of advice too, because I don't think that's something I haven't done automatic writing in quite a long time. So like pretty much my earlier days, I used to do it a lot because I hadn't really fully connected intuitively or whatnot. So the automatic writing was kind of my like first in, I guess you could say. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Yeah. Hmm. What do we want to talk about? Have we shared any lessons yet? Do we want to talk about share any particular lessons, or do we just want to keep exploring different experiences?
I'm down for whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, I'm down for whatever if we want to. I know that you had talked about lucidity and traveling and whatnot. So we could go into that. We could go into lessons. Whatever feels comfortable for you guys, I'm down for.
Let's go lucidity and flying. I have a fascination with flying in dreams because I think it's just such a freeing experience. And I guess the first question is, have either of you flown in your dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have.
yeah. Yeah. So it's
We
just
did a we
it's
did an episode a couple months ago on flying, and was there another one with
I
that?
think it was a combo, but I can't remember.
Oh, flying and falling in
Hmm.
dreams. And I think that I've had a lot of falling in dreams, where as we were talking about like timelines, there was a period where I was like falling like into my body. Like initially I was falling from somewhere and then I fell into my body in the bed, but it was like it was a dream within a dream. So then I woke up and like I feel like a period of that was, yeah, I had sleep paralysis, which is crazy. And then I like finally woke up in the dream. And like that was happening where I would fall from like one dream to the other, or it'd be like a different timeline. But during that period, we started talking about flying. I don't think that I have like intentionally flew before that, but I would have certain dream experiences where I believe they were astral projection, but
That's
still
what
kind of like in that in between space. Um, and it was like I was lucid, but I was like I was hovering, flying. So it was almost like you're on those hoverboards. So I wasn't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I was just almost standing like that, but I couldn't control the speed and I was always going really, really fast. And when we had an episode on this, we were talking about the different experiences because I literally just went on Reddit and, there were a bunch of people talking about it. So I was like reading through their dream experiences and people were just talking about the different ways you can, like, if you're lucid, you can initiate the flight. And so, yeah, I think for me, it's always kind of like hoverboards or maybe like not necessarily rockets from my feet, but that kind of energy where it's like the propelling from beneath. And like when I did intentionally try to fly, that's how I would start it. And then I would start to glide like or fly kind of like a superhero, like Superman. And it just felt a lot of the times I felt like I had no control, which I'm
Mm.
sure I know that's symbolic.
well, I was
It's
even gonna
symbolic to have no
say
control. Sorry,
I
Alexis.
feel like, yeah, to have like no control of your speed. Like I had control of the direction, except for there was one dream where I decided to, or I think I just happened to start flying, but I was in a closed in building. And so I couldn't go, like I was trying to go beyond the ceiling because I could see like it was translucent, but I couldn't go beyond it. And so like there's always for me, there's some element of like I can't like in that case fly beyond the ceiling or I can't control the speed at which I fly.
there are limits, whether
Yeah.
they're self-imposed or not, they're limits.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, even the aspect of falling back into your body feels like those experiences you were astral projecting.
Hmm.
Like the dream within the dream, I feel like you were astral projecting and then it woke up in another dream when you fell into your body, which
Hmm.
is really interesting
Yeah.
because you've talked about this before, but for some reason, or maybe I'm mis like remembering my interpretation, but I don't remember like coming to that conclusion, but you repeating it again, I really feel like that's what you were probably doing, astral projecting, just being outside of your body. Because the aspect of falling back into your body, but then still remaining into a dream, like I don't know, it just
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I've also heard like an interpretation of sleep paralysis where it's some people say that it's kind of like you're in between realms, like like your body, like your conscious mind, or something hasn't like fully synced yet, where you're like, okay, like I'm waking up. And so you're kind of locked in. So it's like the travel between dimensions is a little wonky. And so you kind of get stuck in that paralysis state for a minute. So I've
Mhm.
heard that. And that makes sense when I think about the experiences I had where it happened in dreams and I like didn't actually wake up in the waking space. Like I woke up like in another dream and I was lucid and moved into like another whole, like walk through a door through a wall, which was like onto a different dream and like became like, I felt like I walked into another space or something, or maybe someone else's dream or some, not dream, but yeah, into their space.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. I have so many places we could go with this. I'm like
Right.
trying to take notes. I'm like, okay, I have something to talk on that and that and that and that. I don't know if I'll be able to cover it all. We need to have you guys back again.
Yeah.
Can before we go any further, maybe just to remind our audience, and I think we one of our the last episode we did together, I think we did talk about astral projection and astral travel, but maybe you want to
Mhm.
just remind our audience like what exactly that is. I know Alexis, you said it's like outside your body kind of thing, but before we go further into that, maybe just what your guys like understanding of what each of those are.
Mhm. Do you want to share, Alexis, or you want me to?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. I've had I don't know. So I'll just speak from the astral projection perspective because I've had that happen like in two different states. Like I've done it intentionally, I've done it unintentionally. So I've done it like years ago because I get sleep paralysis all the time and I came across like randomly an article that was like, oh, if you have sleep paralysis, it's an easy way to astral project. You just basically have to focus like your mind on it, and then you can do it. Because I did it unintentionally before, and then that's when I came across the article. And so, and then I did it like a year or so ago. So, for me, astral projection, I think you're a little bit more um aware, like you're a little bit more conscious. So I feel like you're closer to your waking space, like your conscious reality. I think you're like kind of right at the threshold. So you're a little bit more aware than just if you were like in a lucid dream. And generally, when I have astral projected that experience, it tends to always happen from like my bedroom. So I end up waking up in the like my home, and I
Mhm.
like basically travel from there, and I'm lucid. I get to choose where I want to go. um but it's like I feel and I there is a projection, like you are aware that you're projecting from your body, and there's just a different, like you feel like your spirit is like a vehicle. Like I was saying, like I was on a hoverboard. That's generally how it feels, like either I'm on a hoverboard or I'm floating like a ghost. And when I consider astral travel, to me that just feels like I'm traveling to different dimensions, whether I'm lucid or not. Like I can do that, like obviously lucid, or that
Mhm.
happens just like if you're not in a lucid state. Like you just like, and it's one of those things that, I mean, if you're lucid, you'll know in the dream, but a lot of the times for me, I'll know after, like when I wake up from the dream, I'm like, oh, I traveled, I was somewhere else. So that's how I would say the difference would be.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with that too. When it comes to astral projection, I tend to equate that to local travel. And then when it's astral traveling, I tend to equate that to like other dimensions, other timelines, things that are not local.
Mhm.
But what about, okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to put words to this, but what about an astral projection or travel where it's within your own conscious, but like, you know how there's like, there's your higher self, and then there's different fragments of your consciousness. So there's, there's the you in this 3D reality that we're in right now, but then there's also you in other timelines and other realities. So what is it when you actually end up projecting within another version of yourself, if that makes any sense at all?
I still think that's astral traveling, whether you're waking
Okay.
up as yourself in another dimension or like for me, that's because that's what I really feel like is happening anyway.
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
but it feels like we're like again that astral travel feels more monumentous, where the astral projection feels more localized, more like exploring
Mhm.
what you would explore in the conscious, but in your sleep
Yeah, it feels
or
like
space, not
oh,
just sleep. Sorry.
it feels like I like what you said in your local space. I feel like with astral projection, and maybe like, overall that's not a good term for it as far as like, what's happened, like or astral projection, I feel like there's a limitation because just the feeling is so different. I feel like what you encounter, like it's literally always like in my neighborhood or in my home. So it's like, how far can your awareness in your like physical body and this close to our conscious like reality, how far can you travel beyond that without it? Like I feel like there's a threshold in some way. So I feel like it's kind of limited. But when you astral travel, and from the perspective of what you're saying, like say if like I'm in this perspective or aspect of myself, which could be like a completely different person. Like it could be a man or a woman or like an animal or an ET. You just have like, it's you because you feel that essence of your soul. I think it's just like a shift in perspective, or a shift in like we're like experiencing from the consciousness, or the like that piece of consciousness from that aspect. Because again, it's like, how do we even define consciousness and how that like breaks apart, so to speak, or how it separates? And so I can see that um that still feels like astral travel, or it's a different type of projection. Because even when we
Right.
think about our waking space, it's still like a projection from our consciousness. So we're getting these different angles and these different ways of like interacting, different levels of sensation that we're experiencing in like between astral projection, our conscious reality, our astral traveling, and just like an ordinary dream. It's like just the different layers of like projections of our consciousness and the experience of that. It's kind of the way I see it.
I agree. And I wanted to add too that when it comes to astral travel, the way that I kind of relate it to something, I don't know, like what I would say is the feeling you get when you have a visitor in your dream space and you know that it's not a manifestation of your own mind is the same thing when you're astral traveling. Um, you know that you're not in a place that was manifested by your own mind. You feel like you're elsewhere.
Mm.
And that's just the way that I would describe that. Again, astral projection, I do feel like you're more like it's almost beyond lucid. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like you're I don't know, because you're coming out of your body and again traveling in your local space. So it's almost a little bit more than just lucid. I feel like it kind of is breaking a barrier where I don't know, you're not awake, but you are awake. But it's not lucidity, something beyond that. I don't know how to explain.
Is that the out of body experience that some people would
Yeah,
say?
I would say so.
That's what astral projection, well, that's
Yeah.
what we relate astral projection to.
Yeah,
Um,
like, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I've talked, this was maybe a little over a year ago. I met he is a heart surgeon. And he's Indian. He's born and raised in India, but here, like he ended up, working here and at different hospitals. And so, of course, he grew up in the Eastern tradition. And so none of this basically is like weird to him or anything like that. And he shared with me how, they would be operating on someone, and then after the operation, like when they came to and everything, they literally described like the person described everything that he did. And so it's like that makes sense to me, because it's like you're in your local space, like you said, it's that out of body experience, but it's just like I don't know what it is. It's like you're like you say, it's beyond lucidity. And I think in some ways too, it's still kind of limited, or I don't know if we should say
Oh, for
limited,
sure.
because it's like it's all focused on like the local environment, and and maybe it's just as a result of like how tethered our spirit is to our body, and like whatever point of like consciousness we are in that space, like we can't go very far like with that form of awareness, like while out of body. So it tends to just be in the local environment, is the way I perceive that. But yeah, so I would say it definitely is like an out of body experience, what people say as far as that.
So I think that makes sense. Let's see if I can wrap my head around it. So the astral projection is basically an out of body experience that's happening within your local vicinity, we'll say, and that's because it's an out of body experience. You only have access to what is in your immediate surroundings, essentially. And then astral travel is not an out of body experience, but it is a uh, conscious experience. I guess you're traveling through whatever versions of conscious or fragments of consciousness that are existing, whether that's in this timeline, other dimensions, wherever it may be. Does that kind of sum it up?
I guess astral travel would still be considered out of body, but not in the sense of like the connection to the consciousness, like the waking. I feel like the astral projection is more in connection to the waking, where like astral travel is more connected to, like you said, like the dimensional travel, the timeline travel. Like it's still you're still leaving yourself, but it's not, it's in a different way. It's almost like peeling the veil and moving through the veil elsewhere.
Mhm.
Space folding.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, to even try to put this into words is
Yeah.
very,
Well,
It's so
and
hard.
yeah.
it is, but it's like, and I mean, maybe we don't need to put it in words, but I've had a lot of different experiences. And so, it just would be nice to try to have a terminology for what it was that I experienced so that we can share. And then if somebody else has had that experience, they can relate to it and whatnot. Like out of
Absolutely.
body experiences, I definitely have like I have literally have felt my body shake. I've felt like something literally leave. It's almost like it leaves through my nose almost for whatever reason. Because there's also the idea that like consciousness is in the air, so like you're like breathe in your own conscious, if that even makes any sense. So like I have literally have felt the shaking my and something leaving my body, and then I have felt it like come back into my body. And depending on how quickly you come back, if you come back too quick, it's like I've had it where it feels like my energy is not fully into my body and I have to like stretch myself into my body, if that makes any sense. Like so there's those experiences. So like what was that? Was that astral projection? Probably. I don't know. Was it astral travel? I don't know. I've also had it where I've like it's and all of this always seems like a dream because you're always doing it when you're going to sleep or just waking up from a deep sleep. You're in bed pretty much having these experiences because it's when you're shut off from the busyness of the day-to-day life and that you can explore. And I've also heard that like while the physical body is sleeping, the soul doesn't stick around. It gets bored. So it's out doing things, and having all of these experiences, which is why we both have podcasts that discuss all these things. So all these experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I've also have like been the point where you're like you're almost asleep but not quite, and then like in my third eye it's like a portal like appears and I can like literally like gravitate and go through the portal and then hit my leg on the edge of the portal and then feel that sensation in my physical body. So it's like, what is all this?
I love that. I love how like we've had all have had similar experiences or kind of like the same thing. Like if you define it like this is this category, this is this category, but it's like it happens in our own unique way. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mm.
Dreaming is just such a like we can share our experiences, but it's so fun knowing that it's also like incredibly unique to you. Like it's just like living your individual life. Like we can relate to so many different things, but we can't even relate to them the same way. Like it's completely individual, the experience, and there's something really beautiful about that in the dream space too.
Mhm.
Yeah, and is that because let's see if I can put this into words. Everybody has their unique experience, let's say, because as spiritual beings in a physical body, our body is literally like you mentioned like filter earlier, but it's more like we're a receiver that then has to translate the experience to give a perspective of what that experience sort of is. So there is like, some information's coming in and then it's being like almost like translated into a particular experience or perspective. So that's why we're all unique and individual because everybody's perception is different.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's experiences are completely different from the next. I mean, we could witness the same car accident and have completely different experiences. And even the idea of like having siblings and you're raised by two different parents, even though they're the same set of parents, they're two different sets of parents for each of you. And everything is just completely unique to you. And I mean, and that's on all levels. I mean, even the way we, perceive color and the way that we, experience time, like everything is so unique.
Mhm. Yeah.
Speaking of color, I don't know if I've asked this before to you guys, but have you ever dreamt in like cartoon?
That actually happened this morning. And I'm sure it
Cool.
happened like beforehand, but there was this, I don't know why I'm getting goosebumps right now. Which actually it's probably the most like the biggest like symbol in my dream. But basically there was this like raven, like I knew it was a raven, but it was like huge. I don't even I it like have you are you familiar with Studio Ghibli films like My Neighbor Totoro and like Kiki's Delivery Service? It's
Yeah, I've
like
seen a couple of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so that, and then if you've seen like K-pop Demon Hunters, there's like a bird that has like a top hat, and it's like I think it is supposed to be a raven or some kind of demon. Anyways, in my dream, it reminded me of Studio Ghibli in a mix, like a mix of that and that character, but it was like a huge blackbird and it kind of looked goofy. And then there was like another small bird that was both were ravens. They were both one entire creature, but a small bird on top. And the regular raven looked normal, I guess you could say. But the bigger bird, which had like its own face on the bottom, literally had Coke bottles as eyes. It was so weird. And I was everyone, I was like, oh my God, he literally has like Coke bottle eyes, like if you think about the glasses. So it was really bizarre, but it was the like animated like blend of Studio Ghibli and K-pop Demon Hunters. And I was just like, that was really interesting. I don't know why that was there, but and then it moved into another kind of like Disney type feel of like a woman and other different animals, and she was like more like shamanistic. But when I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, she's like a little Disney like princess like shaman woman thing. So I thought that that's kind of interesting that you just brought that up because I don't really remember having any cartoon aspects in my dream, but I'm sure I have. But literally this morning that came through.
And was it like you were um just kind of like viewing it like as if you were
Mhm.
on TV, or were you
Yeah.
like part of the dream?
I was part of the dream. So I was with like a group of people and we were like not necessarily vacationing, but kind of we were all in India. It was really weird. Um but anyways, we were all out of our location, and the one person's like room that we were at is someone I know in my waking life. And we went into her room and then we walked out to the patio. And so we were all sitting down at the table about to just hang out and like have some drinks or whatever. And we all noticed, or maybe I noticed, there was a huge oak tree and it was like fall time. So it had like the beautiful colors. And then that's when it like swooped down. I saw that like bird raven thing. So we were all like watching it, and then we were watching the lady interact with that and like some other animals at like a dumpster. So it was really odd. Um, but yeah, it was really weird.
And do you think that was just to have that experience? Maybe it was to have that experience for the podcast, or
Maybe I did intentionally. So I did put well, one, I went to sleep uh with this new sleep music. It's called Whimsical, probably sleep playlist or whatever, but it's like this whimsical kind of like almost fairy tale type sleeping playlist. And I play it for my daughter to help her go to sleep, and then I listen to it too. So yeah, I think it's a combination between that and then I decided to sleep with a Hecate or triple moon goddess card for a podcast episode that we're doing in a couple days. And so like the energy of the dream, or what I as far as what I looked up with that creature, or like a four-eyed raven, it spoke to if there's any kind of like bird that has more than two eyes, it leans into like a psycho pump like symbol. And so, which is like the in-between world. So that made sense for Hecate. So
For sure.
Alexis, I gave away what I was going to hold back for
That's
the
okay. We
episode,
still have two more
but I
nights
still
of
have a couple of
dreaming.
days to sleep with that energy. So it made sense, but I'm still kind of like, what the heck was that?
Hmm.
Because I've never, have you had a cartoon show up in your dream? before, Sarah? Because that was very specific, or you just thought of that.
I don't know if you are
You're
on mute,
muted.
but I couldn't hear you.
Oh.
Oops. Thank you. Yes, I definitely have had cartoon dreams before. That's why I brought it up. I'm trying to recall once I actually dreamt and it had like Aladdin and the genie or whatever. It was kind of just like side scroll. So it was almost like I was just like kind of watching, not almost watching TV in my dream, I guess is kind of what you could say, but like from first person, like not, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And the one that always stood out, and I still like it keeps popping in my brain over, every few months it'll pop in my brain like, oh, that was the dream I had. What did that mean? And I still haven't like figured it out. But it was like cartoon billboards. So just like again, I was like in a car and things were scrolling by and it was just cartoon billboards. And one of the billboards, uh what did it say now? I think it just said like regional or something like that. It was in big letters and it was just scrolling by. So yeah. It's just random.
How about you, Alexis?
Well, real quick, the dream, the billboard dream that you had that said regional, I wonder if down the line you're gonna have an experience where you pass a billboard and it says regional and then like gives you more of the message in the waking space and it's kind of like a predictive dream, but like a pay attention dream. So you'll learn the message and meaning behind the dream in the waking space when it comes through. Um, but in regards to my own, I've definitely had dreams where it was like more cartoon based, but um, none that really stick out to me aside from dimension jumping. And I wouldn't even say it was like cartoon. I would say it was like art just in general. Like the dimensions were all different, like styles. And I don't even
Mm.
want to say art because it was so, I don't know, like it felt, it's kind of inexplainable. Like I can't really, like
Like
different
a
styles of art, but it wasn't styles of art that we know. Like I don't know. It was
Were you viewing
complicated.
art or just like how
No,
the
no, no. I
dream
was
looked?
jumping. I was jumping dimensions. So as I was
So
moving through each dimension was styled differently.
was it dimension or like universes?
Who knows?
Kind of like the only, aspect I can grab a hold of this is like the multiverse in what is it like with Doctor Strange or something, and they're
Hmm.
falling through all of the universes and there's like the
It could
mirror
be
universe and
universes, dimensions. It could be anything. Just shifting perspectives. Who knows?
this dimension jumping or universe jumping as you put it, is that something you can consciously do or you're just like pulled through it?
That I know I was lucid for it, but I wasn't choosing to do it. And that's what happens in most of my dreams. Most of my dreams I'm completely lucid, but I tend to follow the layout of the dream because to me it feels like if it's there for a reason. Um, so I was lucid in experiencing it, but I wasn't altering it or changing it or like conjuring the next universe or dimension I was gonna experience.
Mm.
So cool. That's really cool. Just the concept of universe jumping.
Is there
Um,
any meaning like behind like animated dreams? Because I know a lot of people like it's a thing of whether, your dream is in color or not. Do you know of like I feel like this is like the first time I've had a dream where it was like animated like that. Or like that aspect of it. But did you ever like look into that at all? Like if,
yeah,
anything on
no, I never did. I just had the experience. I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Is anybody else dreaming cartoon? And never really thought much of it just because I'm so open to dream experiences, just like we spend 8 hours sleeping. Like there's got to be a reason, and part of it is just to explore. I would imagine it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
and
then
that's
when you dream in cartoon, are you the cartoon as well, or is it kind of like Cool World where like your realism in a cartoon world?
yeah, I've not had the experience where like I am a cartoon character or something like that. I've not had that full, though that would be really cool. That would be like
Watch
next
we all
level.
like have that dream tonight. Might like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna
I
have to
can't
go
break
back.
my Hecate. I didn't do it last night.
I
I have
know,
to do it tonight. So I can't think about anything else.
right? You're like, nope.
Um, but flying, I want to bring it back to flying dreams because not that we've really reached on it, but we just briefly mentioned it. Um, and I liked when you spoke about like your flying experience, Urania, were more like the gliding kind of perspective, like you had hoverboard style. I definitely have had that experience, but the actual like flying, kind of like Superman, as you say, for me, that happens the moment I realize that I'm having a lucid dream. I'm like, oh, I'm
Interesting.
like, I can fly. I'm like, I'm lucid. Let's go. Let's fly. And what's interesting is I've had at least two dreams where I'm full on flying. Once was I actually was flying with my mom, which was super, super cool. Um, but the most recent flying dream I had, or it was more, I realized I was lucid and I wanted to fly, but for whatever reason, I couldn't fly. And but I kept attempting to fly. And I was like, oh, I'm lucid, I can fly. And I would like run and like jump and I would like glide back down. I wouldn't like fall and plummet, like with real gravity, you'd fall really fast. It was just more like a gliding and like landing. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get a running jump. And I like ran and hit off a sign, like, like what do you call it? Like wall kicked off a sign to try to get up in the air. And then still just kind of like fell down a little bit. So, or like glided down. So I don't know what it was, why I couldn't fly in this particular dream. Was I just in like a dimension that flying isn't possible? I don't know.
Well,
I mean, oh, sorry.
I
I was gonna say that with that particular dream, it could be like we talked about before, like limitations. Like you could have been experiencing some limitations that you either put on yourself or your circumstances had been put on you in the waking space. And so in the dreaming space, that type of limitation, even if it wasn't on your conscious, was coming through in like a subconscious state. So like maybe it was that reflecting in there just that aspect of limitation in the waking space. But I also like your idea of the dimension of not being able to jump up and start flying. Like there were almost limitations to the dimension that you were in.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, but what you just said actually was ringing true for me about limitations in the waking space. And that's interesting because when I've had flying, like the first couple of flying dreams that I had where I was full on, you know, Superman style, just flying and free and just having like the time of my life and just so much fun. I guess if we were thinking about symbolism in dreams, what that symbolizes is just like absolute freedom, just like completely free and just, I don't know, just able to have fun, I guess. And the fact that recently having that dream and being somewhat limited, not being able to fly, if flying symbolizes freedom, then perhaps I'm, perhaps there's some waking part that doesn't feel like I have that same sense of freedom that I had before, which when we look at, new mom, that kind of probably was subconsciously playing through. So thank you for that. I didn't have that interpretation before now. So
Did the dream like continue even though, so did you continue on or did you wake up eventually after trying and trying and trying?
no, I woke up. But what's interesting is when I was lucid, Um, so I'm just trying to remember exactly how it went. But it was something like I ended up like looking at a screen. And for whatever reason, when I looked at the screen, I'm like, oh, I'm dreaming. And I like almost like the sense where you said you like jump into your body. That was what
Mhm.
it felt like. It was like, boom. I'm like, okay, I'm lucid. So I like jumped to my body. And the first thing I want to do is I want to go outside. And I do remember this part of the dream where I could smell like I could actually smell in the dream. So it was like fresh cut grass. There were cows and chickens and things like that. And then I went up onto this rock. And I think I actually talked about this in the last episode. So there's probably more details in the last episode. But I went up on this rock, and when I looked across on this rock, there was a building and it had a tree on it. And right away I was like, I've seen that before in another dream. So like I
Mm.
recognize this building and this tree in another dream, but I was like actually there where that building and that tree was in the the other dream, which happened maybe a year ago, months and months ago. I'm not really sure. So that was also an interesting experience with this dream in that I was
Mhm.
recalling in the dream or recognizing things in that dream that I recognized from another dream. So that was quite an interesting experience too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When you were describing like trying to fly and then like slowly coming down, I don't know why I got this visual of like your dreaming self just kind of like grabbing you and like placing you down like a little baby. It's like, no, we're gonna do this here. Because it made me
No,
think
you're
about,
not flying.
right? It's like we're not flying right now. Pay attention to the surroundings. It reminded me of my lucid dream experiences. Like my go-to, I hate to say, was like I would always summon someone that I would like want to like be intimate with in some way, whether it's just kiss or like, you know. So that was kind of my go-to in lucidity. And after a while, or I would change the scene or something and go somewhere else. But after a while, like my dreaming self wouldn't, like I couldn't do it. Like nothing would happen. Like no one would come, or I would the dream scene wouldn't change, and I would just like sometimes I would wake up, and other times I would just like, okay. Like once I knew like okay, just follow the direction of the dream, even though you're lucid. Then I would just kind of get annoyed, and I'm like, okay, fine. Like I'll start looking at stuff around um my dream and whatnot, like following because I'm aware. And so my practical Capricorn aspects are like, okay, we're gonna do task one. We'll just like focus in on the environment and see what stands out to us. So when you mentioned about the tree and the building, that felt like that. And it felt like, oh, that's an important dream. Like that's the way my mind would work. I'm like, oh, okay, like here's like a marker of like, okay, pay attention, like something interesting is here. And so then if there were people there, then I start talking to people. So I get really proactive in my dreams. So that's kind of my way of like just my personal experience with lucid dreams, or like I want to control things and do certain things. So that's my way of like balancing out going with the dream and also having some sort of control where I'm like, well, I'm choosing to talk to this person, or I'm looking
Mhm.
around, or
Mhm.
I'm doing certain things in the space to see how like the environment interacts with me, or how things like what comes around, or maybe someone will walk in, or maybe something changes. So it's like almost like in waking life where like in some ways we can't really control our external world or the people in it. We can only control our actions and how we interact with it in some ways, and like being present and slowing down and like focusing in on stuff, or like paying attention to your environment can really, and like you responding moment by moment can really, just bring a lot of insight and awareness to where you are. So I kind of try to do that in the dream space when I'm lucid, and that helps me to um get that feel of like wanting to control things, because that could also speak to like my waking life in some sense too, wanting to have more control over what I'm doing. So yeah.
I like what you guys talked about with, almost like your higher self kind of pulling you down and forcing you to acknowledge what's around you. I don't like change my environment or like do a specific activity to like when I'm lucid, like I don't have an objective, like I'm gonna get lucid, I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna get lucid, and I'm gonna, go to Spain, or I'm gonna get lucid and I'm gonna, do whatever. Like I just I've never had that personal experience of desire to do that. I've always kind of talked like what Urania talked about like being aware in the environment and making the small decisions to be within essentially what has been set up. And I relate to that so much, that aspect of like, yeah, I don't think that I need to change the scenery. I don't think I need to change the scenario, but I'm going to talk to these people. I'm going to go to this room. I'm going to open this door. I'm going to hyper focus on this area of the dream. And I'm going with the storyline and everything with control, just not crashing what was already built, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like the term crashing what was built because I think that's what I do when I'm lucid. That pretty much describes what I do where I get lucid. I'm like, I'm gonna fly. And like you said, well, did I wake up after that? And I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I ruined the moment kind of thing is kind of the vibe I'm getting. So
Yeah, they call it
sounds
like collapsing
Clap.
the dream. Like
Yeah.
especially if you have high emotions. Like it's interesting when you like compare like conscious reality in your dream space because like we want to be present, we want to be like meditative, and that's like when you're in a lucid dream, people say, hey, this is something you want to do. Because if you're like too excited, then you collapse the dream. If you are kind of like checked out, like you're not present enough, then you can slip back into like a regular dream. So
Hmm.
it's like finding that sweet spot of like groundedness, of presence, and being able to interact and explore and still have fun, but like not getting carried away with it. Cause then you just like wake up or, yeah.
yeah,
I
for
feel
sure.
like it might actually be, of course it's up to you, but it might be worth it for your future lucid dreams to maybe remember that lucid dream you had and kind of follow a little bit of what was already laid out for you and kind of see what is showing up, like um maybe even just waiting a little bit before you jump into something you want to do, kind of seeing what's laid out first and then jumping into what you want to do. Just like it almost feels like the message there is to pay attention to what you're
Mhm.
essentially being given.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely need to work on my lucidity dreams. I'm paying attention. So awesome. Oh, we have covered a lot of ground today, guys. Or girls, I should say. And I feel that the conversation doesn't really stop here, but time-wise, I think we should wrap up. I go to bed in like a half hour. Because baby wakes up early, of course. Um, do you guys have any closing thoughts or anything you guys want to share on what's coming up with your guys' podcasts or just anything? Floor is yours.
Well, this week on Friday, we will be dropping our new episode, which will be talking about Hecate and how she might show up in your dream, how you can work with her. And that'll be dropping Friday on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Other than that, I mean, we are working on getting our website set up and, seeing where that leads us. So, yeah. Did you want
Also,
to?
I just want to share that we've been having a lot of fun with this series that we've been doing Tarot and Dreams. So we are speaking about specifically the major arcana and how that like with your dream practice you can integrate a tarot practice, and we talk about the dream symbols that might correspond to the specific card, and also like a fun practice that we do is sleeping with the tarot card that night to see like what messages come through that specific archetype. And also we talk about, you know, if that card comes up for in reference to a reading about a dream that you had. So those have been really fun. We will be discussing the chariot in our next one. So we've made it all the way up to that point. So that's all on our, of course, on our Spotify podcast and on Apple as well. But if you go on YouTube, there's a playlist that has that all organized. So
That has been
Wonderful.
such a fun series.
yeah,
It really is, guys. And we just put out the Hierophant, which was an incredible episode. Like it was, I love, I can't, I mean, the Emperor I had a little issue with, but we talked about that. And if you really want to know, you can go and check that episode out. But other than that, I feel like every single card we've done has just been such a joy to dive into and see what comes through. Again, when we put the card under our pillow a couple nights before for a couple nights, just like having those themes come through, that archetype come through, and being able to talk about it when we record.
No, that's super exciting and something I've never considered doing. So I guess I'm gonna have to check out your guys' series and get up to date. I do have one question about that though. Do you have like, I know that for obviously for the series, it seems like you're just taking turns with, you know, card after card, but do you have like a particular spread or a particular way that you would like pull a card for a particular dream
Mhm.
intention, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So oh.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The very first episode in this series that we didn't really think that we were doing a series until we did this episode specifically on tarot and dreams, which is basically the introduction episode to the series. We shared our two different spreads that we use specifically for the dream. So that's on there too. And then
Sweet.
different few other practices on how to like integrate tarot with your dream space. And one of those is placing a card underneath your, you know, your pillow if you want to work with that energy or you have a specific question um, through your dream space in reference to that.
Mhm.
Very, very cool. Okay, awesome. I will have to add all of that information in the show notes so people can find you and find your awesome tarot series, plus all of your other amazing episodes that you guys have released. I feel like I'm cutting this episode short, and I apologize to both of you and also to our listeners because I mean, the three of us, like you said, we all have very similar experiences and a lot of things to share. And as I think we've said before, the conversation isn't really stopping. It's just stopping for this particular moment in time. I am confident we will continue the conversation at a later date. Maybe it's in a live episode. Maybe it's me on your podcast. Maybe you just come back to Dream Oracle for you. Who knows? But I appreciate and love both of you so much. And I thank you for coming on for the third appearance on Dream Oracle for you. It's always so much fun to talk to you both. And I really appreciate all of your wonderful insights that you had to share today with us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. And we'll definitely, yeah, we're gonna have to follow this up with an episode on our podcast. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sounds
Thank you
sounds
so much.
great. No,
yeah.
thank you. And thank you to all of our wonderful listeners. Thank you for supporting Dream Oracle for you. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast, I am accepting guests. You can just check out dreamoracleforyou.com and find all the details there. And with that, I look forward to where this podcast is going and future conversations about all things dreams. Thank you again, dear listeners. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Urania. And everyone, please just keep on dreaming.